Hello guys, Dr. Shingu Mupfawa here and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about the function of the human ear in the maintenance of balance. But before we dive into this process, let us go back to the examination guidelines. Your examiner expects you to know the functioning of the human ear in the maintenance of balance, including the role of the maculae and cristae. Please note that you are not expected to know the details of the structure of the maculae and cristae. The human ear is responsible for the hearing process and the maintenance of balance. So today, we are focusing on the maintenance of balance. So, the structures that are involved in the maintenance of balance are as follows. So we have these circular structures, which we call the semicircular canals. And we have this part at the bottom. Right, the part at the bottom consists of these two swellings. This one, the sacculus, and this one, the utriculus. Right, so let us zoom into these structures that are involved in the process of balance. So in front of us here, we have a bigger diagram showing the structure that we've just identified. So as you can see, we have our semicircular canals, right? And this will be a part of another one. And inside these semicircular canals, we have these structures that are known as cristae. Cristae when they are many, and crista when it's one. These cristae are found in the ampullae or ampullae. Ampullae when they are many, ampulla when it is one. Now, below the semicircular canal, we have identified some swellings, and this will be one of them, which is called the sacculus, and we have another one which is called the utriculus. Inside the utriculus, we have a very important type of receptor, which is this one, known as the maculae when they are many, macula when it is one. So macula when it is one, macula when it is one, maculae when they are many. Right, so this is a type of receptor that is found in the utriculus and the sacculus. Now that we have identified the receptors, let us also look at the stimuli that would be responsible for stimulating each of those receptors. Right, let me just erase this to create some space. So now, inside the semicircular canal, like we said before, we have the cristae. So we have the cristae. So the cristae are stimulated by two things. Number one would be the change in direction of movement. Number two would be speed of movement, change in the speed of movement. So these two would be the stimuli that would stimulate the cristae. Okay, so this coming this side, inside the utriculars and the sacculars, like we said before, we have our maculae. All right, so the maculae are stimulated by the change in the position of the head, change in the position of the head with respect to gravity, position of head with respect to gravity, with respect to gravity. Right? So a classic example of a situation where there is a change in the position of the head with respect to gravity would occur when one is bending forward so that they can tie their shoelaces. All right? And an example of a situation or a scenario where there is change in the direction of movement would be somebody who is going somewhere and they all of a sudden see something that scares them, like the snake, and then they change the direction in which they were moving or in which they were walking, right? And the change in speed, a classic one would be when an athlete is accelerating at the beginning of the race. I think you all know that the athlete would transition from being at 0 meters per hour to a very fast sprint when they start running. So you need to note that your examiner can actually provide you with scenarios, and from the scenarios they want you to identify the stimulus, and then if you identify the stimulus, then you know exactly what will happen. You know if it's the semicircular, if it's the cristae in the semicircular canals that are going to be stimulated, or it's going to be the maculae inside the utriculars and the sacculars. So you need to be in a position to identify the type of stimulus from the scenarios that should be provided in the exam by your examiner. Now, having said this, let us now look at the detailed process of maintaining balance. All right? So all this is happening in the inner ear, right? All this is happening in the inner ear. So, like we said before, we have cristae. There are many inside the semicircular canals, and these are stimulated by changes in speed and in direction of movement, right? And when they are stimulated, so it starts with the stimulus, right? So let's just show that we're talking about the cristae. So cristae. So it starts with the stimulus, right? That change in the direction and speed of movement. So it starts with the stimulus. The stimulus stimulating our cristae, and the cristae then converts the stimulus into an impulse. And the impulse now is then transmitted through the auditory nerve. To be specific, this is called the vestibular branch of the auditory nerve. Right? So this nerve impulse is going to be transported through the auditory nerve to this part of the brain. This part of the brain, which is known as the cerebellum. Okay, the cerebellum for interpretation. Now, when the cerebellum interprets the nerve impulse, from the semicircular canals, it is going to generate an impulse. All right, and this impulse is going to be transmitted to the muscles. All right, where balance is going to be restored. And our if it's our athlete who is accelerating from 0 meters per hour, will not trip over and fall down. All right. Now let us look at what happens with what happens inside the utriculus and the sacculus. As you can see, inside the sacculus, we have our receptor, which we referred to as the maculae. There are two, so they are the maculae. There are many, so we refer to them as maculae. If it's one, we said it's called macula, right? So what happens is that in our sacculus, we have in our sacculus and in our utriculus, we have the maculae. So these maculae are going to be stimulated by the change of position of head with respect to gravity. And like I said before, a classic example would be that one of somebody bending down so they can tie up their shoelaces, right? So that bending, right, would change the position of the head with respect to gravity. So this will stimulate the receptors that are found in the utriculus and the sacculus. And then what happens next is that, so we start off with the stimulus, all right, and this stimulus is going to be converted by our maculae into a nerve impulse, all right, and this nerve impulse is going to be transported through the same nerve, all right, the same nerve. It's actually the vestibular branch of the auditory nerve, right? Where is this nerve impulse going? It's going to the same place. It's going to the cerebellum for interpretation. Now, the cerebellum will then interpret the nerve impulse, and then will generate another impulse, which is then sent to the muscles, and then balance is maintained in our colleague who is bending forward so that he can tie his shoes. So when balance is maintained, our colleague is not going to trip over, is not going to fall down. So there you have it, the maintenance of balance through the semicircular canals, the utriculus, the sacculus, and the auditory nerve, carrying the nerve impulses to the cerebellum for interpretation. And then the cerebellum will then generate an impulse that would be sent to the muscles for balance to be restored. If this video was helpful to you, give it a like. Share it with your colleagues. Comment below. And don't forget to subscribe. See you all in the next video.